Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video. Today's video is featuring some products from Sunny Studios. I am using the Happy Homes and the City Streets stamps and dies. And I wanted to create what are we calling those? Like the postage dies. They're very popular, but you can create it without the die. And so the game plan that I wanted to put together was doing mini scenes to make them more approachable, which I think is one of the reasons why those postage dies are so popular. So you don't have to do squares or rectangles. You can do circles and lay them out a little bit differently, different sizes of circles or hexagons or whatever. Basically, what you want is something that's going to allow you to create several windows. And then within those windows, we're going to create these little mini scenes, so that they are kind of broken down into bits so that we're not making a full card scene that can feel kind of overwhelming. We're just doing a little bit at a time. So I just pulled out a bunch of different ones from a bunch of different companies just to show you. I ended up settling on a square and a rectangle. And so the one on the right is the one that I did before I started so that I would take up all of your time trying to come up with something that fit. And so how I made that is I laid them down and made sure that they fit. And then once I knew that they fit and it was how I wanted them to be, I traced them with a pencil. Tracing them with the pencil allows me to know exactly where to put my die back into place, in order to make sure that everything fits where I want it to. And so I'm going to cut out 2 at a time. And then for the other one that I traced, I'm going to very, very lightly erase the lines. I want to know a little bit, like I want to see the line just a little bit, but not a ton. And this is where I'm going to be doing the coloring. So I need to know what's going to fit inside the windows. And then, of course, we don't waste anything around here. So you can keep these little windows to, make another card or do another card exactly like this where maybe your scenes are popped up. So this is not perfect. Like when you see the postage dies that a lot of companies have, they are fit in there perfectly. So there's no extra area. Here I have just a little bit of an extra like square in the center, but I'm totally fine with that because it's a perfect place for my sentiment. So now I'm going to get into the stamping. Like I said, am using the Happy Homes and the City Streets I wasn't sure how I was going to do it, so I stamped all of them. I actually ended up only using the accessories of the City Streets, but I'll be able to use those in another card. So speaking of the sets that I'm using, I made this card weeks ago because I made it for my neighbors and they moved out on I think their last day in the house was July 11th. But I've just been sitting on it and kept meaning to put it up, and of course life. But anyway, right now, Sunny Studios is having a summer sale. So they're having a sale 25 to 75% off their summer items. They also have a retired section, which has a really good discount. And if you spend over $100, you can use the code FREESHIP and get free shipping. So like super cute discounted stuff and free shipping, win-win. And that goes through the 1st. I think the retirement sale stuff is kind of always there. I'm not 100% sure on that, but the summer sale is through the 1st. So I will link that below. Now let's talk about what we're doing here. So here for my mini scenes, I wanted to start stamping in the background. The things that we stamped before, I'm going to die cut and put in the foreground, but I want something to be in the background. But I also want to make sure that I'm not over stamping into another area. And that is where you see that masking tape. I'm just lining it up with the edge, so that I can continue to do all of my stamping and not stamp over. None of the things in the background needed to be masked. So like it's really nice and easy because I just stamped them right next to each other. So I decided that I was going to go with the houses. I have no I have no idea what their new house looks like. So I just decided that I was going to go with a color theme that I thought would work. They're actually not even moving that far. So, like I said, I made this for my neighbors, and they lived in the house next door to us. They lived there for like 40 some years. So they're just like my parents. My mom and dad moved into that house right before I turned one. And so they raise their kids there, and their grandkids come over there and swim, but they are, and it happens, I think, to a lot of people where they just don't want as much yard to take care of or snow, because we live in Ohio. So anyway, they're moving into a 55 and older community, which is actually really only like 10 minutes 10 minutes down the road. And but they take care of all of those things, doing, the snow and the grass cutting, and what else is included? I think even their HOA fees even pay like their internet and their cable. But then they also have like a clubhouse that has a pool, and they have exercise classes that they offer, and pickleball courts, and like they have all these other things that they would have access to. So we actually got my mother-in-law looking at them because they're really close to the house. And right now my in-laws live about an hour away. So anyway, very, very nice community. We do miss them though terribly. My husband, who does not like change whatsoever, the new neighbors were moving in, and Peanut came in, and he was like, "Hey, the new neighbors are in the backyard if you want to go say hello." And I happen to be like right in the middle of something. And I'm like, right now is just not a good time for me. And he was like, okay. And then he went outside, and he was like, I didn't talk to him, but I did say hi. So I was like, well, good job, buddy. You're doing better than both of us. So I have not had a chance to talk to the new neighbors yet, but I have seen that they have a doggy. It looks like a little Labrador, from what I have seen. And, I love the doggies. So I'm excited about that. Hopefully the doggies are doggy friendly, because we do have a fenced in yard, but it's just chain link. Okay. So back to the houses. So since I knew that most of my color was going to be coming in from my accessories, I went pretty neutral with the house colors. So I went for like white. I know it doesn't look white right now, and it's because it's on a white background, but hang tight. I went for a white and like a brown. I think we've talked about this before with house colors. Like, I desperately want a blue house with white trim. When I was growing up, my house was like a light blue, but it had black shutters. And then my parents ended up redoing it. God, it was quite some time ago. And so that the house is white with blue trim, but like a baby blue. I don't want a baby blue. I want a navy blue. Anybody who watches this channel is not surprised. Y'all know Blue is my boyfriend. So I went with like a brown, and originally I was doing like the white-ish accents, like where the overhang was. And I didn't really end up loving that. So I'm going to change that later on. But this one does have a cute little chimney, so we're going to make sure that we get the little chimney colors in there. And then for the windows, I don't want to leave them just white because they're not actually white. So I'm going to go in with some lighter blues. If you're going to do your house, say like a red or, something like that, do your windows first so you don't accidentally pick up some red and drag them, that into your windows. I obviously was not overly concerned because one is white and one is brown. So they weren't too terribly dark, but even like a dark brown I'd be aware of. So for the roofs, yeah, that's got to be an ES, right? So I'm doing this is where I changed and decided that I was going to do them a dark gray or black. I just feel like that's more traditional. And ultimately it ended up matching the color scheme better doing it this way. So yesterday I had put up a video. And I had mentioned that we went on vacation, and while we were on vacation, I had stopped in a store so that I could buy Peanut a football. And when I was approaching the checkout, the lady there had watercolors out, and so I never finished my story. Which was not intentional. I just got carried away with the card. So when I got up there, I was like, "Oh, do you watercolor?" And she was like, "Yes." And so she had the pan set that was like maybe, I don't know, 8 or 12. And so we were talking and I was like, yeah, I'm like, I have the big one, but I haven't used it in a super long time. And she was like, do you watercolor? And I was like, yes-ish. I do watercolor, just little bits because, what I really do is make cards and sometimes I watercolor on them. So I was like, do you watercolor? And then she points to the wall of all of these beautiful framed watercolor pieces. And she was like, yeah, I paint them and sell them in the shop. I'm like, if only I had just looked around, I would have noticed that. And they were beautiful. They were beautiful paintings. So we were talking and she had just like a glass cup like with her water, and I was like, they make collapsible water brush, so you can travel the water cups, collapsible ones. And she was like, no. And then I was trying to bring it up on my phone to show her, but it never would come up. I didn't have good internet connection, I guess. We chit-chatted. She asked me for my Instagram. I gave her my my Instagram. And so she followed me on Instagram, and then I turned around and followed her back on Instagram. And isn't it funny how you can just find crafters anywhere? So I really did love the little community. You could tell like the houses that were right on the lake or the roadway, like how much time they spent planting their flowers and all of that stuff. It was just such a really cute area. And even though we rented the golf cart, which was very nice, I walked so much. I'm doing this thing called Walk Fit. And I've been doing it for a while, but basically it's walking to lose weight, and you put in you have to pay for it. It's a paid app, but you put in how much you weigh, how much you want to weigh, by a certain date. I think I actually put in Jelly Bean's birthday, but I'm not entirely sure. And then it calculates your steps, like how many steps that you need to walk in a day in order to lose that weight. Now, obviously, you can't out-exercise a terrible diet. But if you're eating, a relatively good diet, you should be able to, lose some of your weight. And so but it goes up. So it's not great. Like, you don't start off at 50,000 steps a day. Well, I hope it never gets to that. I'll never make it. But anyway, it's starts off gradual. So you might start with a goal of 5,000 steps a day. And then after a month or whatever, or 2 weeks, I don't know how often it increases, you go up to 7,000 steps a day, and then 10, and so on and so forth. And so I did so much walking. I was consistently hitting 13,000 steps a day over the weekend. And in my head, I was like, oh my Lord, have mercy. I hope WalkFit doesn't think I can walk this all the time, because I can't. Because I can't. I have a job. I have to work for a living. I just can't be walking everywhere all day. So we'll see. We'll see what it ups me to, and if it's something that's reasonable that I can achieve. So, yeah, it was a really good weekend. But anybody who works, like owns their own business or works for them, works for themselves, sets their own hours, like, if before you go out of town, and when you come back, it's like a double whammy. You have to do all of this work before you leave in order to be able to leave. And then you have to do all this work when you come back in order to be able to continue to pay your bills and catch up on that time that you lost. So let's talk about the coloring here. So for the most of it, it's been pretty straightforward as far as the coloring goes. I did want to mention here with the trees. Now, obviously, these stamps are drawn in a very cute style. That's Sunny Studios style, is very cute, and I enjoy it very much. So sometimes trees and things like this can feel a little bit challenging, like how am I supposed to color those? And I find I am the happiest coloring them when I use stippling, because it gives us a lot of color variation without really a whole lot of effort. Yes, I did color that little restaurant seat and table. I didn't know I wasn't going to use it. And then the same thing for the clouds. Like, we're not going to go crazy with the clouds, but we do want to have some sort of shading there so that they don't just, look flat and blank. And so in order to do that, I'm using some very light, cool gray markers, a C1 and a C3, and I'm just kind of extending out where it's drawn to dip in. I'm just kind of extending that out to help give them a little bit more shape. And then here's that stippling on the tree I was talking about. I think I used 3 different greens. I'm not worried about shadows or anything like that. I just want a good variety of color to make the tree look interesting. Like I said, these aren't drawn with realism the businesses do, but they are definitely a more sweet kind of cartoony style. So we don't have to be also worried about making sure our trees look super realistic. As long as they have color on them and they are interesting to look at, I think we're good. Here is where I changed that little like awning section to make it so it was like that black color to blend into the house. I much, much preferred that. So we have all of these different elements. And then once we're done with the coloring, we are going to use the die cuts. We're going to cut them out. And then this combining flat stamping and die cutting is another really easy way to build up a scene it's a very non-committal way to build up a scene, because you don't have to be married to it. With the dies, you're able to kind of move them around, so whatever works for you. So now here I have all of my pieces parts, and I'm going to start laying them out so I can see what I like, what I don't like. I wanted to do the car in one of the scenes, and then the mailbox and the fire hydrant and the little doggy and another one. So there's a couple of different ways to kind of mess around with this. So once I have an idea of where they're going, then I'm just going to use a light color, in this case a C1, to mark off the way that I want my scene to look. So the one in the bottom left, I want there to be like a little hill and a sidewalk with a tree lawn. On the one in the top right, I want there to be a street with a little lawn. So that way I can park my car in the street. And now we'll zoom in so that we can do the coloring on the background. Once again, these are all just flat stamped. Nothing had to be masked because we just stamped them really simply. I apologize that I'm a little bit off of the screen. Eventually I will realize it. But so I did the grass all the same color, so everything is going to work really nicely. So it will just look like little window snapshots of the same street or neighborhood, without having to be super overwhelming and building up that entire scene. Which, I mean, I could do if you wanted to see what and the all those elements would look like in an entire scene. I could do a card like that just to kind of show you the difference. Or maybe that's an idea for a different video. But I like things like this that make those scenes more approachable, because the more that you do it, the more confidence you will build. That's true of anything. The more confidence that you will build in your scene skills, and then you'll be able to further push yourself and challenge yourself and kind of branch out from there. Because sometimes, masking can be, like the wall that we just can't get over. Well, I really love scene cards, but masking just feels like too much and I can't do it. And so then I get discouraged and then I don't want to do a scene. So, maybe you could try something like this to see if, that is something that would be enjoyable for you. And maybe these mini scenes are all it's ever going to be for you. And if it is, then that's totally fine, because this is still a super cute card. I was perfectly happy to give this to my neighbor. You guys, if you've ever moved, you know that it is a nightmare. It's a nightmare. Some people, like my husband has moved like 7 or 8 times in his life. I've moved to college, back home, when I got married, to the critter cottage, from the critter cottage to here. I've moved like 6 times in my life, and that is too many. I don't like moving. So this is my forever home, whether it wants me or not. So here, just very quickly, blending in some blue sky kind of around those clouds, and using some blue greens, some lighter blues, just to kind of break up that color a little bit. And then the clouds, I will treat also the trees as well, I will treat them the same as I did the ones that we colored and then die cut out, because we want them to match. They are going to be in a scene together. I'm just using those lighter blue green colors to kind of blend down the blue sky and create a nicer horizon. So that's what you see me doing there, kind of working that. Then once, I forgot about the sidewalk and the street. I did bring in some darker grays for that, to do the sidewalk and the street, so that the car and the dog, the little puppy dog, would have something to be grounded on. So what were we even talking about? Oh, my neighbor's moving. Oh, so moving is awful and terrible. And it's hard when everything that you have is packed away, and then, you don't want to have to keep like eating McDonald's and, to kind of make it through. So we got them a gift card to DoorDash. So at least if they were going to have to eat out, they could get a decent meal. So here for my sentiment, I am tracing my circle. This is the one I'm going to be cutting out, because I need to know where to put my sentiment inside the circle to make sure everything fits. My little congrats on your new home. It is a little bit wider than it is taller, but I have a little trick to fill that in as well. So I will show you that shortly. But yeah, I do miss her. Sandy was her name, my next door neighbor. She and I finally got to like sit down and chit chat before she left. And now I'm like super sad that we didn't chit chat more before she moved. But like I said, since they're so close, I am hoping that maybe we could get together for lunch or something. So here is my little trick to fill in those spots. Look for embellishments. Oh, speaking of embellishments, they are also in that sale. If you are like a person who likes to make shaker cards, or if you're like me and you put the glitters on everything, those would be good ones to pick up. So anyway, I die cut the little hearts, which are like some of the little accessories, and I'm going to use that to fill in and accent my sentiment. So here, what happened was I had done the one, like the original die cut, but then when I went to erase the lines, I kind of crumpled it. Not really, like there was just some bends and it wasn't as clean as it could have been. So I just laid that one down over another piece and used it as a template, and then cut out this one right here. And that ended up actually working out really nicely, because then if I wanted to like glue them together and double them up, that would work. Here, I'm clearly on the struggle bus trying to get this house situated. I love the way all of the little scenes look, even before we put in any of the houses or anything. I think it's a super cute, like little walk in the park kind of feel. And I think that you could just do those backgrounds by themselves without any extra accessories, and you could make a card out of it. So what I'm doing here is I'm just kind of holding the frame in place so that I can get my bigger items centered. So that one in the bottom right, obviously that house is quite bigger. Also, something to note, the squares that I used are stitched and the rectangles that I used are not. So don't be afraid to kind of mix and match. It adds character to the card. So if you have one that has stitches or diagonals or stripes or whatever, and the other one doesn't, it's okay to mix them up. It's, that is the benefit of kind of making your own postage die, is that you can make it to be whatever you want. So I put down my little car, and then I also did the two little, what are those, like topiaries in front of the White House, which is so funny. The street I grew up on had a house that looked just like this, and we literally called it the White House. If I was meeting my friends, I'd be like, meet me at the White House. And then the little doggy with the fire hydrant and the mailbox is going to pull that bottom left together. I am going to blend this in. I don't love the white outline on the die cuts. That's no big shock if you have been here a while. So I'm just going to go through and blend those in. It doesn't have to be anything, too crazy. Just enough so that it makes sense. Like when I'm looking at that car, looking through those windows, like they're still white, but if you were looking through it, it wouldn't be white on the other side. It would be grass on the other side. So like we would want to fill those in. So once I get everything done there, then I'm going to go ahead and add my adhesive to our self-made postage die, and then just line that up so that it frames out all of our little mini scenes. I do think this is so cute. I love the way that they come together, and it's just like little bite-sized ones. So for my sentiment, I am going to pop this up on foam so that it sits above all of our little scenes. Of course, I'm going to add some white gel pen because I cannot help myself. So I did add it to the windows, and then along, like the roof, the, what do you call those? Why can't I think? the posts on the porch. Are they just called posts? I guess they must be. And then I'm also going to use it to add like some little clusters of flowers and the trees. These are just little tiny things that you can add to help bring the whole thing together. And then once all that is done, I am going to remove those stickers on the back of my foam tape. We'll put the congrats on your new home right in the center. Now, you don't necessarily have to accent it with anything, but I thought accenting it with the little hearts was super cute. And then I will, of course, add my shimmer to the cars, the front doors, the hearts. And then you don't have to do rhinestones. And honestly, looking back, it might have been a bit much, but I added them nonetheless because I love all things shimmery. And then I also added some glitter to the little accent hearts, just for some more shine because I love them. So then that is it. That's our fully made Postage mini scene card. I hope that this helps you guys with your scenes and, possibly making your own dies. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.